29, 12, and 6 out of him. His friend Paul George helping out with 27. And yet, guys, this was a close game until this happened right here. Third quarter, Luka Doncic, Marcus Morris getting a little tangled up there. Kristaps Porzingis stepping in, shoves Morris, because that's what you do when you're 9 feet tall. Porzingis would get hit with a tech. That's his second tech, so he'd be ejected. And that's really all the Clippers would need to regain momentum in this one. So LA goes on to win 118-110. They take game 1 of this best of 7. Here is Kristaps Porzingis after the game.
I should have been smarter. I already had the technical, which kind of didn't really have in my mind. I hadn't been in that situation really, you know, and that was smart of him to kind of grab Luka and get into his face and get a reaction out of me. And yeah, they got what they were looking for.
Well, as you might imagine, social media was abuzz after this. Dirk Nowitzki, Dallas great, big unhappy, tweeting that ejection is super soft. LeBron stepping in, adding, man, that was bogus as hell, man. Come on, man. And Patrick Mahomes jumped in, tweeting, that's trash, man. But none of that emotion compares to what you're going to get from Nick as soon as I am done with this sentence. Nick Wright, your reaction to that crucial injection. In fact, Broussard was sleeping at home and he goes, you guys are talking Clippers? Let me run out of bed, join the show, and here we go. But Nick, I'll first start with you. What was your reaction to Porzingis' ejection in the third quarter?
Yeah, I mean, I think America's wildly overreacting. All it was a potential series-altering, indefensible, inexplicable, look-at-me decision by these officials. It was just idiocy upon error upon malfeasance that led to this whole thing. First of all, Kristaps gets his first technical because the refs blow a call. He has a clean block. They call it a foul because evidently the seeding games weren't enough to knock the rust off for them. So, of course, you got to give him a technical because he violently punched the air. Then the second issue there is KP did nothing for a technical here. You don't need to go review it, but there's nothing officials love more than going to the monitors. Let's see, did someone pull out a shiv? Was there a knifing in there? Let's go look. Fourth of all, can we maybe have some common sense? No one is begging for a technical here. No one is begging for an ejection. And last of all, for the letter of the law, folks. Oh, no, well, listen, punching the air, it's in the rule book, and you're instigating that's in the rule book. If we're going to go letter of the law, then letter of the law is Marcus Morris, you're gone too. Because he should have gotten a technical by the letter of the law for what he did.
That's true, probably.
For a letter of the law for what he did to Kristaps. So if we're going letter of the law, then let's throw out a bunch of people. I thought Zubac threw in a shove. Let's tee him up as well. It's insane. And all it did was take a game that the Mavs were in total and utter control of after they didn't wake up on the right side of the bed, evidently, and were down 18-2. They were in the midst of outscoring the Clippers over the next 25 minutes of basketball, 69-48. Broussard's beloved Clippers had no answers for the Mavericks offense until this. And it is ridiculous. It would be ridiculous in a preseason game, much less a playoff game. And the referees must show awareness of the situation. You didn't have to review it. You shouldn't have teed Kristaps up the first time. You certainly shouldn't have teed him up the second time. And how Marcus Morris gets out of this scot-damn free is just beyond me. So, yeah, listen, it's not a big deal unless you think it's a big deal, Broussard, that now the Mavericks have to win 5 out of 7 instead of 4 out of 7.
Can I go now? First of all, let me say to America, please excuse my face. I was watching these games out in the sun with no sunscreen, so I'm burnt up. But while I agree with Nick's overall point, this was terrible. LeBron is right. Dirk is right. Pat Mahomes is right. This was a horrible ejection. It was exasperating because, as Nick said, at first, you give Porzingis a T for swinging at the air. That is terrible, and I heard Steve Javie's explanation. Of course, he defended the officials. but he said that the league will reprimand an official if you don't give a player a technical for swinging a fist, even if it's at the air and then no one in particular. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, the league's got to give these referees more leeway to read a situation. And even if the league will punish a referee has got to just stand up and say, look, that is not a technical. All he was doing is showing emotion. He didn't escalate the situation. So the problem was the first tech. That never should have been called. I saw Kawhi Leonard later in the game be more demonstrative
flip out, and nothing happened. Yep.
And because he didn't swing a fist, but he was very demonstrative and nothing happened. So it was horrible. I don't even think the second technical was that bad. He's defended a teammate. It didn't escalate into anything. But the problem ultimately was the first one that necessitated, once he got the second tee, he had to go. But here's where Nick went overboard. Nick, look, the Clippers were winning this game no matter what.
Oh, give me a break.
They were going to come back and win this game.
Okay.
We won't.
Yeah, they looked
this
great.
Will not be proven to you until down the line. How many times have the Clippers played a mediocre game throughout 3 quarters?
A lot.
And they pull away in the fourth. Yeah, a lot. But then they pull away in the fourth. You will see, Nick Wright. You will see. It will take days. It will take weeks. But you will see and put some respect on the Clippers name
put some
sooner
respect.
or later.
I'm gonna lose my mind. Here's a fun fact for the Clippers. Oh, they were gonna win anyway. The Dallas Mavericks, as Wilds, you like to point out, the highest scoring offense ever, have played 304 quarters of basketball this year. Do you know how many of those 304 they were held under 15 points? One. The one last night when Kristaps got kicked out. It was their single worst quarter of basketball. And despite that, it's still a one-possession game midway through the fourth quarter because the Clippers, this great defensive team, the Los Angeles Clippers, can't manage to stay in front of Luka Doncic to save their damn lives. But Wilds, Broussard mentioned a name here, and I'm sure this is a long-time friend of yours with your deep relations with the NBA, and this is, I'm sure, a reason why I'll likely never get a vote. But I'm not off my television screen, Steve Javie. Stop it, Steve. Even Mike Breen, who praised to the book of officiating, was like, okay, this is ridiculous. And Steve Javie's like, let me tell you something. These refs are good men, good sons, good brothers, good husbands, and that was a great technical foul. In fact, I think Kristaps maybe should be banished. Enough of that. Enough. Everyone watching it, Wilds, knew it was ridiculous, and everyone also knew it was game-altering, except for Broussard, evidently, Wilds.
So, first of all, I don't know Steve Javie personally, but, I'm all friends with everybody in the NBA, according to Nick. Broussard, would you have given Porzingis a tech, the second tech? Do you think that was a warranted tech?
I think it was a little overblown because Marcus Morris should have gotten one if KP got it. So I didn't have as much of a problem with that one as the first one.
Okay, that's what I mean.
I didn't even think the second one was bad.
Okay, so I think the second one, he comes in, he escalates the situation, you tee him up. The idea that the first one is unwarranted is unfounded because Paul George got the first tech for punching the air. So Kristaps needs to know that, they're calling punching in the air, and Kristaps took the tech. So there's Paul George's tech in the first quarter. He's like, why did I get teed up? For punch in the air? That's ridiculous. So the idea that Porzingis didn't deserve the next tech for doing the same thing that he just took a technical free throw makes no sense. And contrary to popular belief,
the problem.
The refs don't want to throw anyone out of the game, Nick. They don't want to do it. They know the situation.
Oh, really? Then why'd they go review it? Okay, that's nonsense. It's total nonsense.
They don't
with
want to throw
respect,
people
I know
out of the
that's not
game.
respectful because I called it nonsense. Well, they didn't have to. They made an affirmative choice to throw a guy out. And one thing that Jeff Van Gundy gets absolutely right on every broadcast is if you always act like a petulant baby, they let you act like a petulant baby. If you are generally well behaved, that's when you all of a sudden get a technical for swinging at the air. If you got a technical every time you swung at the air, Draymond Green would play 15 games a season. But because it's just the way he acts, and I'm not trying to pick on Draymond, you just bake it in, okay, we're going to have to deal with it. But this idea that there is not a well-established protocol in the NBA, that there is a certain threshold for a first technical and a totally different threshold for a second technical, belies all of NBA history. We know that refs throw out the first technical willy-nilly, but then they typically, particularly in the playoffs, are judicious before you throw a guy out. And you mentioned Paul George got a technical for punching the air. If you think they would have thrown Paul George out of that game for doing what Kristaps did, you're out of your mind. It was, and Broussard's saying it with a wry smile. He knows that was a potential series-changing call, certainly a game-changing call.
No,
you take the second best player off the court. The Mavericks were killing them. The Mavericks scored 7 points,
Can I say
70 points through 26 minutes.
Go ahead, Broussard.
Yeah, go.
Quickly,
Broussard.
go ahead.
Your logic